Making it work as much as we possibly can. Eric Mangini, 3 years with Cleveland, with the Jets, couple of years with the Browns. He is now joining me, as he often does on Friday. 3 rings with the Patriots. All right, you watched the Patriots last night. Are their solutions easy? I look at them, and in an increasingly weapons-driven league, tight end, wide receiver, quarterback, I just don't see a lot of speed. I don't see dynamic game changers. I see them all over the field for the Rams. How do you solve this mess? This is not great. Like, how do you solve this stuff?
Well, I don't think it's a short-term solve. The most disappointing part of that game for me last night was what New England did defensively. I mean, rarely do you see them get gashed like that in the running game and jump off sides on 4th and 1. And some of those things, to me, are uncharacteristic. And I think will get fixed. You know, from an offensive perspective, it's they're transitioning from the O-line. Losing Dante Scarnecchia as the O-line coach hurts them. The other thing that was surprising last night is guys running free, not even getting a hat for hat on some of the Rams sacks. It's gonna be fixed, and I think last night was a little bit more of an aberration than necessarily the way it's going to trend.
But, I've said this, Eric, and I've seen this in every industry I've ever. I used to work at a big company, ESPN, and they were formidable and they were dominant. And you start believing in your system. You start listening to less people outside of your sphere. You start believing into your good press. And I look at New England, and the more Super Bowls they win, the worse they are at drafting offensive players outside of the O-line. And, the arrogance is a real human trait for successful, rich people. And some of this is, I look at them, boy, Eric, they don't draft offense very well. Frankly, they don't have a lot of players that anybody would else want. Isn't that a fair criticism?
It's an absolutely fair criticism. But when you look at arrogance, a lot of people become arrogant after one Super Bowl. And we see that all the time in the NFL, where a team wins a Super Bowl and they're giving everybody else advice on how to repeat, and they never even sniff the Super Bowl again. New England's had 20 years of success and unprecedented Super Bowl victories. So to look at them with the same sort of guise of arrogance of big corporations, I don't think that's fair. I don't think they have done typically a great job of drafting offensive talent. That's not necessarily a strength, and they've been able to do that because having Tom Brady, who maximizes the intellectual side and takes advantage of coverages, has been able to cover that.
Yeah. By the way, it's all said and done now. Tom, if he wins this weekend, they'll be poised for a wild card slot. New England's not doing anything. The divorce, the breakup today. What's your opinion on it? Both sides.
But look, I think both sides would have been better together. I think that Tom in Tampa is going through that frustration of having to learn a system. And the reason you bring Tom Brady in is he's not lighting it up athletically. He's lighting it up because he understands what the coverages are. He understands how the offense works. He understands how to get the ball into the right place. And when you now force a guy like that to learn, you're not maximizing his impact on the team. And I think what we just talked about with New England, he'd be able to maximize the ability in New England because of his time with Josh McDaniels, because of how well he knew the system, and both would be better off if they had stayed another year together.
So you live in Cleveland, and Monday Night Football, this is a big stage. Baltimore's been in dozens of games, Harbaugh. And I like Cleveland this weekend, but you know that. You coached in Cleveland, and you coached in the Jets. And sometimes non-traditional powers get into these big stages after a win, Eric, and they're just feeling themselves. I mean, I know we're laughing, but we this is a real thing. And how do you think Cleveland responds Monday night in their biggest game in a decade off a great win?
Well, look, I thought the opening game of the season was a little bit of hazing of Kevin Stefanski when you put a rookie head coach with 2 rookie coordinators against the Ravens and all that experience with no preseason, well, all the challenges. So now fast forward to where we are now. What I love about the Browns and the way that Kevin's handled the team and the way that the team has responded is you're not hearing about all the other stuff. Nobody's complaining about what Colin Cowherd said about him on his show. Nobody's talking about, what they're going to do in the playoffs. They're just focusing on the next challenge. It's so refreshing to hear and to see. And I think they've got a really good coaching staff, and I think they've got a great opportunity not just to win this game, but to make a bunch of noise moving forward.
Let's do the opposite of that, which is the Steelers, which have a remarkable history and brand, but they can't run the football. They don't attempt to run the football. Aaron Rodgers right now is 14th in the league in attempts. Last year, Mahomes was 18th. Russell Wilson was 22nd when he won a Super Bowl. Aaron was 14th when he won a Super Bowl. Big Ben's number one. He's averaging 50 throws a game. I think we buy into him because of the brand, and I watched him again last weekend, and I'm like, man, I don't like where they're at. My feeling is you do. Let's update the Steelers' opinion today.
Well, look, I know there was a study on another one of our shows that talked about the first 8 years of Big Ben versus the second 8 years and how much he threw the ball and their success. But if you look at that, the first 8 years that Ben was in the league, they had a top 3 defense or better, scoring defense or better, 6 out of those 8 years. Over the past 8 years, they haven't. This is the first year they've even sniffed that situation. So Ben's had to carry the load. It's easier to run the ball when you're playing really good defense. Now, that being said, to establish a running game and to be able to build off the running game, every team needs it. And Seattle's learning about that as much as anybody this year. So do I think the numbers are skewed? Yes and no. I think that the defense has changed dramatically. And if I was going to put the team in anybody's hands, to me, it'd be Ben Roethlisberger.
By the way, the Wentz topic has been fascinating for us because I do think if he went to the Colts and Frank Reich and got better, I don't think his salary, at least for the Colts, is an issue. I mean, again, $35 million for a good quarterback is what you pay. But for the Eagles, I guess I could make the argument that if they moved Wentz, they're not paying Jalen Hurts anything, so the quarterback position wouldn't be that punitive, although it's awful to have like that dead cap money. What do you do in Philadelphia today? Well, I mean, seriously, you ran the team. Yeah. What do you do with the Wentz situation?
Carson Wentz has to work. Carson Wentz has to work, or there's going to be a new head coach. That's just the way it is. And it may not be the short term where he has to work, but when you've got a situation where you've got $59 million in dead cap money, if you move on from him next season, that's a problem. If you've sold your owner on the fact that this is our franchise quarterback and that he should get a second contract and he should get that contract early, and then you say, look, he's broken beyond repair, that doesn't fly. And I understand why we're moving to Hurts in the short term. He can move around better than Wentz can. But I watched that game last week, the coach's copy. The O-line has problems. They didn't run the ball very effectively. The receivers weren't getting open. I didn't think they necessarily called a bunch of plays that were as beneficial to Carson as could have possibly been. But if you say that this guy's broken, then to me you probably have a new head coach, with the next quarterback.
By the way, let's go back to the Rams game. Boy, I tell you what, that defense is really good. They've got really nice skill players. I really like them. I know you watch them and like them. Is there something that worries you about the Rams?
Yeah, it's similar to the 49ers. When they were playing the Cardinals, I was thinking about that game, and you look at it and you think, okay, well, Kyler Murray, the Cardinals are relying on him to win the game, and you look at the Rams and you think, okay, they just want to make sure that Jared Goff doesn't lose the game. And that's a difficult situation to be in. His touchdown to interception ratio is a big concern. His overall decision making, kind of like the 49ers with Garoppolo, they had a lot of different ways that they could win. And when they got into the most critical times, they kept taking the ball out of the quarterback's hands. And can you win a Super Bowl doing that way, or go to a Super Bowl that way and not rely on the quarterback? Yeah, you can, it's hard to really get behind them when you don't feel like they're really behind the quarterback that same way.
I like Goff better than Garoppolo. Do you?
Yeah. In fairness to Goff, I think that, or actually to Garoppolo, I think that the Rams have done a great job of building the running game and then creating plays off the running game that help Goff quite a bit. I think a lot of quarterbacks of sort of his level and Garoppolo's level would benefit from that. I'd say, yeah, between the two, I would probably lean towards Goff as well.
All right. Not much of an endorsement there. That was, it's not like you're giving him.
Well, I didn't hear you endorsing him that wholeheartedly either. It's I like him a little better.
I think he's a slightly more athletic, better deep ball thrower than Matt Ryan. That's what I think he is. I think he throws a better deep.
You think he's a better deep ball thrower than Matt Ryan?
Boy, Matt's arm in the last year or two, Coach, if he's not
I like Matt Ryan better than both those guys.
All right. Well,
easily.
All right. We'll see you soon, Coach. Enjoy your Ohio winter. I know you love it out there in Cleveland.
Hey, it's 50 degrees here. It's blazing. So,
okay.
I might go get a tan.
Eric Mangini, good stuff. Joy Taylor with the news.